Alrighty, hold on just a moment. Alrighty. And switch to... and pop out the chat. And boo. Hey all. For those of you watching after the fact on YouTube, don't forget like and subscribe. Anycubic Photon does awesome stuff. And this is Carlton, who apparently won't even let me say hello to the computer before he jumps up into my arms. So today it is Dark Tidings indeed. Why? Because we're making a Dark Lord. Yes, I finally got another patron sculpt today. It's a Dark Lord. This one may be dark in aspect, but it's definitely not a Dark Lord. Are you a Dark Lord? No. Are you a Dark Lord? Hey. No, I don't know of any Dark Lords that are this cuddly and snuggly. Okay, I'm putting you down on the floor. There you go. Now shoot! Alright. Well, let me go ahead and let some people know that I am live. It would help if I actually opened up Discord. And let's see if anyone's shown up yet. Nope, no one's shown up yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to discuss what's going on. Among other things, the Green Tide, my... Do you mind? Do you mind? Really? Anyway, the Green Tide, my Kickstarter for virtually unlimited orcs, is now at 6306. Which means it's well over twice the default. So... anyway... And we have at least one other person watching now. I've been experimenting with taking these clear, well, mostly clear, resin prints. And let me show you just how. Alright, come on, mister. There we go. As you can see, he's mostly clear. A little cloudy, but that's because he still has a little bit of the green in it. And I've been experimenting with inks on them. For example, blue ink straight onto the clear. And yes, he is mostly clear. And hello, AJ. And then I did another one where I gave it some thinned down green and then a even thinner, darker green. And this probably came out the best. Yes, this is my painting practice figure. And while I've been sitting here showing you Misty Green, someone decided to come by and say hi. What? Oh, fuzzbutt. Blech. I swear, my cats are so feral. They just don't give you the time of day, do they? Alright. Ugh! Insane, crazy fuzz bucket. Just way too snuggly. Yes, you. You mind? I put him down already. Once. Twice. This will be the third time I put you on the floor, Furball. There's a reason what a couple of my friends have started calling me the Necromancer. Yes, possible answer. By the way, today's show will be a patron sculpt for someone who's CH Daedalus is his patron not Discord handle. Okay, the gnome giant killer. The big question is, what makes this a giant killer as opposed to a gnome fighter type at all? You know, what's the difference? What makes him specifically a giant killer? Because otherwise he's just a gnome fighter or a gnome barbarian. Does he have an unusually large weapon of some kind? Like a great sword that's 10 feet tall and he's only 3 feet tall? Big ol' axe? Big ol' hammer? Any number of possible conundrums there. Just to come over a little bit. There. But I'm centered. Mostly. Hey, Mark. You've missed the 3 times Carlton has already made his appearance. Already. Undead Egyptian themed Necrolord. My thought was, let's let him stay alive. Let him be a living necromancer. But have like an undead, like, starting to crawl out from his base. How does that sound? Okay. Now, a couple questions. Number 1. What's his primary prop? A staff, a sword, a dagger? Is he just posing to be like, look how powerful I am? Or is he like holding up a sword or And here's Ralph. Kitty number 3 makes his appearance. You can tell because he's got the red collar. You mind? Yes, you. Anyway. A bladed staff. So, not quite a glaive, not quite a staff. Do you mind, you little furball? Yes, you. Down. Get down. No, that doesn't mean crouch down and snuffle with your big sister. That means get down. Come on, Ralph. Down you go. Go. Okay, we're going to start working on the bladed staff while he's talking to his wife. So in order to do that, we're going to go into 3D Studio Max. Now here's my thought for handling a bladed staff. We're going to go ahead into props, old, no, morph 1, view large list. Import. We're going to delete the blade on it. The blade and the crossguard. Okay. Now, in order to keep it with this pseudo-Egyptian theme, what we're going to do is we're going to attach the blades from a 4 blades from a Khopesh. So file, import. Let me check. View list. Nope, so it's under old. Khopesh R-hand. There we go. Import. Now, what we're going to do Alright, we're going to select the blade, invert the rest, and delete. Now, let's go ahead, effect pivot, we're going to bring it back down to here. There. Now, this is at 13.228. 13.228 and 15.999. Now, go ahead and, oh, it helps if I put on right angle. Bring this back 45 degrees, and then we're going to reset it. Reset transform. Collapse all. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select it all. We're going to shrink it this way a little bit. And then we're going to rotate it just a little bit. And then we're going to select the bottom corner of the blade. Last little vertex right there. Well, single vertex. I hit the wrong button. And now we're going to go to soft selection. Use soft selection. Not quite that high. There we go. We're going to bring it in until it's coming out like that. There we go. Now if we zoom in, you can see it's all coming up from there. And the next step is we're going to then hold down Shift and rotate 90. Actually, no. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead we're going to bend it from here. Collapse all. $90, okay. And then just so we can see it when it's not selected, we're going to make this blue. And then, oh, cancel. Yeah, we need to bring the back corner over. And then, let's select the entirety of that. Reduce the soft selection distance a little bit more. We're going to move it. Alright, we need to select these parts right here. Okay, now effect pivot needs to be negative. Alright. 13.228, negative 13.228. Okay, now rotate it 90 degrees. Select this and attach this. And then rotate it 90 degrees, or 180. And what we end up with is a bladed staff. And we can tweak it from there. Welcome back, AJ. So, alright, now we're going to go ahead, take that, we're going to attach the blade bits. There we go. Now, one thing we can do, while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and select just the absolute top. There. And we're going to turn on soft selection. We're going to bring it down to about there. We're going to change it to be a different proportion. So instead of having a curve like fall off curve like that, it's got a straight line. We're going to pry apart the tips a little. Just to give it a little bit more detail with that prying apart of the divots. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in the gap in between the blades, because there's a gap. If you'll look down here, there's a gap between those blades that goes all the way down to the handle. All the way down there. So, we're just going to make a box. And there, bring it up. And then we're just going to increase the height until it comes about where we want it to. About there. Editable poly. There. That'll help for people who are printing it at a non-exact angle. Okay, now we're going to export this. Oh, let's get that out of the camera. That was painful. We're going to export this. We're going to take it to Meshes, Free Sculpt Minis, and Props, and we're going to simply call this, actually, no, not Props, we're going to take it to Patreon Minis, New, and this is simply going to be Dark Lord Necro. Staff. Export. Done. And now we need to make the headdress. Now this is before any detailing, just to remind you. So we're going to load in the basic jointed base mail. Just as a place to build it from, considering that we're probably going to be using a mail for the base of this. He's going to be mail, right? Alright. What we're going to do is we're going to start with basically a sphere right here that will reach its back of its neck. And we're going to change this from 32 segments to 16. Editable poly. Now, we're going to select all of these, convert it to vertexes, and deselect those vertexes. And we're going to shrink them all to 0. And then weld. Now, the altitude for this is 27.234. That's down here. So this needs to be moved up to 27.234. There. Now we're going to do the same thing here. And weld. Now, these vertexes are at a Y of 632. 0.632. There. What we have now is effectively just a little orange slice segment. Okay. Now, what we're going to do with this is we're going to use FFD 4x4. We're going to select these. Oh, yeah, we got to select control points first. Select those. We're going to make them come wide. Select up here. Actually, we're going to select here. Make it come a bit more narrow until it's about the same. Select here. And we're going to lift it up to there. And then finally these last top two, we're going to bring them straight up. Okay. So, Z. Now, that is just for initial shaping. We still have quite a bit more to go. Now, we're going to give it, before we do anything else, we're going to select there and deselect here. And deselect here. And deselect here. And then loop. Meow. Now we're going to chamfer it at 0.01. And then mesh smooth 1, 2. This may look weird. Most of our sculpting on this is going to happen in ZBrush as we shape it to turn it into the pharaoh headdress. Okay. Export selected. We just wanted some kind of base HD. We just wanted some kind of basic thing there to work our geometry on. Okay, now hold on just a second. I just gotta poke something in over here. Okay, close that and back to here. Yep, back to Dad Studio. We open up the male figure. Now, you're going to be making him a pseudo-Egyptian necromancer. So for that, he needs to actually be bare-chested. Anything else will come later. So we're going to our modifiers and returning smooth torso to 0%. So that he gets that. We're also going to take muscular. We're going to turn the minimum to -100. And we're going to kind of make him a little bit thinner. Just a little bit. So we can kind of exaggerate his joints and his muscles and his gangliness. And now we're going to make this show that a little bit narrower. Then what we're going to do is we're going to make the arms and legs a lot longer. Okay. Oh, it would help if I did them all in the proper. Legs longer in one direction and arms longer in the other. And then the arms, like I said, the arms are going to be longer. That's on the X scale. We're also going to shrink the Y on the palms of both hands. Yeah. And then we're going to scale the head down to 95%. Make it a bit more true scale and a bit less heroic scale. Now, File, Import. We're going to go ahead and import the props. The headrest, for example, is going to parent to the head. Content library, props, just to give it a right hand shape. We need to go ahead and... Alright, is the staff going to be in his left hand or his right hand? It's very important. Is his hand going to be in the left hand or the right hand? Also, I don't know if the audio this week is a bit better. I discovered a flaw with my audio settings that was kind of stupid. Yeah. My microphone was set to 800 hertz reception. Is the staff right hand or left hand? Right now it's default to sitting into the right hand. Right hand, okay. Alright, well, we're going to go ahead and load in a Copex into his right hand. And then delete it, or a katana. And then go to the back view, center on that staff. We're going to move the staff so that it's in the right spot in the hand. There. Perspective view. Now comes time. Let's parent the staff to the hand. And we're going to hit Control D to drop him to the floor, or raise him in this case, to the floor. Under clothing, we're going to give him a skirt. And then we're going to go ahead and with the skirt, we're going to parameters. Bring it up a book. Help if I included the toes. About there. Almost everything else will be sculpted out of the figure itself. So, do you have an opinion for pose besides looking evil? Like maybe as the critter on the base is climbing out. Sorry, I'm just checking. No drop frames. Okay. We're going to be hiding the staff, headdress, and robe while we do the pose. Sorry, I got a... There we go. I'm going to hide it. Okay, I got an idea then. And it's going to relate to the thing crawling out from his base. Okay. One thing that I do is I always make sure that the hips are not parallel to the ground. I occasionally will take a pose. Okay, so we're going to rotate the hips forward a little. Side to side a little. Okay. Now this leg is going to go side to side that way. And back just a little. Doesn't sound right, but trust me, it'll look good when it's done. Front view. Now, and then front view. Actually, it's okay. There we go. Perspective view. Alright, that's maybe a bit too far. Pin translation, pin rotation, pin translation, pin rotation. Select the shins and lock side to side. And then we're gonna pull it back a bit. There we go. And then we're gonna bend back at the waist. And forward a little bit at the chest. Back at the neck. And then we got to do is we got to rotate the chest like that, since he's going to be raising this shoulder and bringing it forward as part of casting the spell. And then this is going to be the hand casting whatever spell it is that is causing the creepy crawly to come up from the depths. Oh no, wrong one. It's the blue we want. And then finger with one. We're actually going to rotate them. Okay. We want it kind of awkward looking, awkwardly posed. Because he's an old man casting a spell. Now, we're going to make the staff visible so we can orient it right. And then from the front, we want to make sure that this is going to go down enough to be into the base a little. Oh, no. There. So how's that for the pose? Keeping in mind we're going to have the base here and something coming out of the center. Oops, wrong. There we go. Okay, now what we're going to do, we're going to hide him, but not and his staff, because we got to bring in a second figure. This is the first time I've ever done this. Bring in second figure, but we're going to bring him. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go to parameters, and we're going to races, and we're going to dry undead. You see a very basic something to make a Draugr or the like from. We're also going to bring him forward and mostly down. Now, anything else we do from here will be entirely by manipulating the joints of the critter. No, let's make it. No, we want to make it go the opposite direction from him. Actually, let's go ahead and bring him up just a little bit more. And then hide the base so we can manipulate this shoulder. Okay, now let's make sure we turn our, and just to get a kind of an idea on what's happening here. All right, we're going to move him back a little. So he's kind of close to underneath the. His head's kind of pointing at that hand. That is our little corpse coming out of the earth. This is all pre-sculpting. So, what we're going to do now, we're literally going to hide everything except for each individual piece as we export it. Oh, yeah. Okay, file, export, Now we're going to Resculpt Minis, Patreon Minis, new Dark Lord Necro. It's going to be Necro Fig. By the way, does this Dark Lord have a name? The staff. Necro Base. And then Necro Zombie. Okay, and then over to Seabrush. Bing. Nakash. So not quite. Okay. Alright, we're going to import Necro Fig first. And then we're going to start appending on the other parts as subtools. The first subtool is actually going to be the robe. The second one will be the headdress. The third will be the staff. Then will come the zombie. Then will come the base. We're going to hide everything except the zombie and the base. Okay. And that's the first thing we're going to work on. Okay, so we drop down to geometry. We're going to subdivide it a few times. Delete. Dynamesh of 768. Okay, then we're going to trim rectangle. Okay. And we just hook it up to the bottom of the base. And oh look, all we've got now is him coming out of the base. Now, before we do anything else, we're going to work on the base a little. Okay, now, stroke, and then layer. We're going to turn off lazy mouse. Bring that intensity all the way up. All the way up, I said thank you. And then we're going to turn on auto masking back face mask. Frame. We're going to use transparency so we can see through our zombie and see where his torso and that are. And break out the tablet. Now what we're going to do, shrink the mouse. We'll click that so that it remembers. Oh, we need to be subtract. And smooth that. Now we're going to grab move topological. I'm going to kind of grab some of these up like it's being pulled up by his exit. And we're going to kind of bring him in a little bit closer around his body. And then bring it up. Okay, frame out a little bit. As he's coming out. Okay, good. That's all we need to do for the base. We can go ahead and hide the base now. And we're going to do some work on Mr. Zombly. And one thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use move topological to close the mouth a bit. And we're going to use inflate, very large, not that large, about there. Just to kind of close the mouth. Then slash. We have to come back up here and turn off lazy mouse and shrink this down about there. And shrink the mouse down quite a bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to and then smooth that a bit. And then once again, come back in. Okay. And then we're going to kind of come around this way. I need to make it bigger for that. And kind of smooth out that just a little. And then we're going to use move, not move topological, but move. Kind of give him a bit of a sneer. As he's coming out. Then we're going to use a layer brush, still at negative but at much lower intensity. And we're going to kind of draw on some, alright, need more intensity than that. More intensity than that. Going to draw on missing bits of the scalp. And there we go. And then we're going to go back to slash. We're going to use this to kind of emphasize where the bones were. Okay. Now the only thing left to do is kind of bony up the hands a bit by adding in the knuckles with inflate at 14. No, at 11. That was what it was. We're going to shrink the mouse until it's about the size, a little bit smaller than the fingers. We're going to draw tendons on the back of the hand and smooth those out. Then 1, 2, same spot on the rings, a little bit ahead on the index, on the middle, a little bit behind on the pinky. Quick. And then here, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and draw them back to here. One, two. 1, 2, 1, 2. 2, 3, 4. And now, let's see how it looks with the base visible. Let's zoom out all the way. Let's use the slash tool to exaggerate some of the muscle divisions now, just because the skin has lost all fat. Okay, there we go. It's just enough to kind of emphasize its status and to give it a little bit of character. We go back up, we make him visible. Okay, one thing we're going to have to do here is with the move tool made much bigger, we're going to grab each foot and kind of pull it down just a little. I want it to kind of make sure that it's all making contact with the ground here. Okay. All right. Now one of the first things we're going to do, we're going to shrink the mouse here. We're going to reduce the smoothing to about there. We're going to smooth the bicep area, because by making it negative, making the muscularity negative, we have kind of destroyed the bicep. And now we're going to use inflate to recreate the bicep. Now it won't be a lot of a bicep, it'll be some. Just enough to kind of be present as a living human being's musculature. smooth it some. Okay, we're also going to smooth that because this is now where we're going to start working on. Right. With inflate, let's shrink this. We're going to kind of exaggerate that muscle right there. Frame out. Okay, now we're going to go for geometry. We're going to subdivide it a couple times. We're going to close in on the head. And we're going to use a move topological. Just enough to kind of emphasize the fact that he is speaking. We're going to shrink the mouse, and we're going to inflate on the inside, just so that we can have a closed mouth without having this extremely ugly, hollow, empty spot that, while it would look good in the sculpt, won't print well. It's got kind of a... Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to raise the brows. At least raise the corner of the brow. Okay. Now, we're going to turn him into an old man. Or a moderately old man. Yeah, there we go. Okay, we're going to actually hide the arm for a second, so that we can sculpt the face. And now we're going to go. And then a little bit sharper under the lower lip. Okay. We're going to draw on lines here and then smooth them out. And come down the center of the head and move there. Because we want that head to be a bit more extreme. There we go. And then we're going back to inflate, but we're going to make the mouse a bit bigger. And we're just going to kind of okay. Now, the first subtool we're going to turn on is the robe. Okay, and to do that, we're going to have to hide this and that to do what we're about to do. And what we're going to do with the robe, first things first, we're going to move the bottom up. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do, we're going to duplicate it. There's a reason why coming up later, and the duplicate we're going to hide. Now, we need to grab the, make the mouse smaller. We're going to grab these edges and pull them in to kind of blend them in to the figure itself. We're going to pull it out here a little bit because we want to cover up the butt cheeks while at the same time coming in. Okay, now we're going to subdivide it and dynamesh it. And we're going to merge down. And dynamesh at 768. Okay. Alright, so this is currently his status. Do you like the expression? Alright, well, what we're going to do with this, the second Necron one, we're going to subdivide it a little bit. Lower, and then we're going to inflate. No, we're not. I know what we'll do. We're going to go back up to, well, not turn on lazy mouse yet. We're going to make this bigger. Focal shift to 0. And turn on lazy mouse. This is going to be and we are going to extract this, accept, draw, and then this one we're just going to delete. Geometry. Divide a couple times, delete lower. Dynamax is 768. And then with move, we're going to make the mouse a lot bigger. We're going to grab the bottom and pull it out. Now, we're now going to go to here and we're going to mask off that much. Make sure it got all of it. No, it didn't. So we're going to tilt it a little bit and mask off that. We're then going to grab it and we're going to move it back under the robe just to give it some depth. And I'm going to grab and we're going to pull it up. Bring this way back down and we're going to smooth out the sides. Okay. Now we're going to re-dynamesh it. And we're going to use slash, kind of big, and we're going to go under here just enough. We're going to follow the outline. And that's not good. We need to make it bigger. Better yet, we need to turn on lazy mouse with a moderate lazy radius. And we need to turn on transparency. Okay, and we're gonna pull this down. And then we're gonna smooth out the bottom of this a few times just to make it invisible. Now we need to make his belt. So, with the belt, what we do is we make that little thing invisible. We're going to give him kind of a Warhammer-y belt, which means that we're going to have let's turn off the lazy mouse. We're going to have a kind kind of a broad belt. We're going to shrink it down 1, 2, 3 along the back. And then here. From that, yeah. Okay, and let's make sure that belt covered up. Yes, it does. Okay, now we're going to see what happens when we extract it at point 2. Perfect. Accept. Draw. This gives us a nice border between the skirt, so to speak, and the bit here. Now, one other thing we're going to do, we're going to use the move tool. We're going to grab the bottom of this down here and pull it up a bit because of how that period and that place does make that bigger. And yeah, we want the robe to kind of resemble the okay. Ow. The next thing we were going to do is going to blend into the headdress itself. So we need to shape the headdress for it. Okay. I'm just kind of move it out a bit more. We're also going to grab the back of it and move it. Okay. That's going to be following his head. And now we go down onto the body itself. Go for a smaller brush just because we're going to do transparency. And now we're going to come from here. Okay, and then we need to kind of trim it down here because it's not that long. And then we're going to extract that. Accept. Draw. And then move. Or no, move topological. And pull it out a bit. And do the same thing here. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and on this geometry, we're going to dynamize it at 256. And I just realized I kind of screwed up because I forgot to remove the masking that made the belt. So now we've got to visibility, hide point, and geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. Okay. Now we're going to subdivide it a couple times, delete lower. We're going to drop this down to right above the headdress and merge down. Okay. Now we're going to shrink the mouse. And we're going to smooth here. And smooth there. Make it clear that it comes from here. Okay, and once again, we're gonna smooth out this, and then smooth it out here. Okay, frame out. One last thing to do before we start adding in details and things like that on that. Actually, no, we still have to do bracers. But we're going to go ahead on the subtool. We're going to get rid of any masking. And then we're going to come in close to the head. And we're going to draw on that. We go to extract, we turn off double. And that's too much. 0.01. Accept. Draw. Okay. Now we go to geometry. Dynamesh of 128. Deformation, we're going to inflate. Geometry, subdivide. No. Let's make that resolution 256. No, let's make it pi 12. Okay, good. Now we're going to deformation. We're going to polish a couple times. And then inflate. We're going to inflate it just a little bit. And then geometry, divide it a couple times. Then we're going to add something to the front of it. We're going to add a gem. make sure that it's depth of 0 and pull out a gem. There we go. Split unmasked parts and subdivide it a couple times to smooth it out. Frame out. Now we need to add in bracers of some kind. Do you have any preferences on bracers? Hello, Ray Umix. To show the fullness of what we're currently working on to the new viewers, this is the current state. We got a zombie climbing out of the earth while the necromancer is chanting at it. Okay, then I guess what we're going to do, well, see, the bracers are off the hand. They're further down here. Yeah. Anyway, one thing we're going to do, actually, let's go ahead while I'm thinking about it. We're going to clear up that staff. Oh. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead, polygroups, auto group. There's a reason I'm doing this. And split masked parts. Okay. That, geometry 256, Dynamesh. Yes. Dynamesh. Okay, now we make the spear visible. Okay, we make this deformation inflate. There we go. Okay, now merge down and then subdivide it a couple times until it's nice and smooth. And now we need to add something to make it more than just a bunch of blades. So we're going to start carving in with the layer and subtract some sigils onto the blades. They are going to be just kind of random squiggly bits because there's no such thing as in the real world that we know of as evil. Actually, we need to lower. I could do hieroglyphs if I knew how to do them, but I don't. There we go. And just a little bit more. Sorry if I'm being a little bit quiet today. I'm just kind of trying to concentrate on getting as much done as possible since it's, already 2:30. Okay, frame out. There we go. That's our engraved staff. Now, we're going to go back up. We're going to make the staff, the zombie and the base Spanish. We're going back up to the body. I said we're making the zombie. Yeah. And we're going to go ahead, before we put on the bracers and do any kind of detailing to the clothing, we're going to go ahead and detail the hands so I don't forget them. Okay. And smooth that out a little bit. Then a knuckle here, a knuckle there. The ring finger has the knuckles in the same place as the index. Middle finger's a little bit longer. Pinky's a little bit shorter. And then one pass over with the smooth brush on each finger, just to knock those knuckles out. And that's that hand. And a smooth there. Okay. Now, we're going to make this a little bit bigger. Kind of bring it across this way. Thicken the heel of the thumb. And that's the hands. Now we do bracers. And to do that, we're just going to go ahead and frame. And then extract, got to be double thickness, 0.02. Extract, accept. Then we draw to get rid of the masking, on him. Then we're going to go ahead and give this arm. We're not going to give it the full size bracer that we gave the other one. Instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to okay. Okay. That's all of the actual clothing items. It's time to start detailing them all. We also need to do a little bit more detailing to him, but it's not as important because most of it's already done. Okay. Snaky. What we're going to do is, first things first, we're going to dynamesh it 256, and then we're going to subdivide them until they're pretty high poly. Okay, now we're going to use the clay buildup tool for this. We're going to turn off lazy mouse, and what we're going to do is we're going to make kind of a snaky like head on this bracer. And it's just going to kind of mob it out. It's going to look more sculpted than the other. Okay, now we're going to smooth out the underside. Then we're going to come around here. Now, we're going to go back to slash. We're going to draw the outline around this mouth. Actually, subtract 18. Now, we're going to add in fangs. And now, we're going to use slash. Kind of draw on the eye on the snake bracer. And then Frame out. There's our snake bracer. Now, the next thing we really need to do before we do anything else is wrinkles. Okay. We need to add in some wrinkles on this. We're going to make this mouse a little bit bigger because this is going to be kind of a heavy cloth. And what ends up happening is we got to turn this transparent. Let's make the staff invisible. And we're going to kind of come across, come down. No, I know what we do. We need back here, we need a seam. Or the large one. And it's going to come down the back. Oh, a little bit bigger. And a little bit more intense. Okay, now we go back to clay buildup. We've got wrinkles coming from here. Now we're going to come across this way. Okay, let's turn off the transparency. And let's see how big. Yeah, let's go ahead and smooth out this just a bit. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use this just as the guidelines for the slash tool. Okay, now slash. You need bigger, weaker. And we're only going to go first at the most extreme areas. And then kind of a strong underneath some of these wrinkles. Okay, we're drawing in just some kind of sharpening in the areas of these wrinkles. Oh, that one went through the middle of where we wanted it instead of where we wanted it. Okay, now we're going to add. We want this to kind of resemble the linens worn by the Egyptians, not by the mummies, but by the Egyptians. We're drawing in these wrinkles and we're sharpening the bottom edge because we want to give it some gravity to the wrinkles. There, you can see how it is on this left-hand side. Now we come around. Oops. Yeah, there we go. And then come around to here, and one's that way, and 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 that way. And we're just kind of drawing in edges on top, not edges, but ridges on top of these wrinkles to really sell them. Now, what I'm going to do for the headdress is I'm going to take that seam that we used, but we're going to do a slightly different version. And we're going to come up to geometry. We're going to subdivide it a couple times. And then we're going to kind of bring it down like this. Then with the slash tool, we're going to subtract. We're going smaller but more intense. We're going to draw in. Oh, before I do anything else, let me make sure I have backface masking on. There. Now, spray them out. And let's make everything visible. There's one last thing that we need to add on, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. And it's something very basic. We're going to add in a skull. Right here in the center of the belt. And we're going to be mesh smoothing it just once or twice. Okay, subtool, let's make everything visible. So how is this looking to you so far? Good. Okay. How's that looking to you? Considering that you can paint whatever you want on that waistcloth. In what way? I need more than just change the top of the headdress. There. Come down more on the head. Okay. What we can do is we can bend it a bit. But it'll actually look almost less Egyptian. That's pretty good. Actually, no, it does look, yeah. So what do you think of that? Yeah, Tut's, I don't have any really good visual references, and we don't really want to do it Tut-like because Tut was unique. Tut's headdress did not look like most headdresses worn back then. I'm going to have to go to here, and let's pull up images. It might be a little too late to really work on that and get it that shape. The shape that it's in now, I don't know if it can make that shape. King Tut. Yeah, see, yeah, it's a little late for that shape. The most I could do would be, let's see what happens if we grab it and we kind of pull it down into here. And shrink this. Bring it over. Okay, that's about the best I can do. Well, I can pull up some more of the center of the head. There. That's about the closest I can come to that shape. Anything else? Okay, when you print this, I would recommend that you tilt it kind of like that a bit. Really and truly. So that much of the arm is supported. You'll need supports on the hands and on the back and on the back of the staff. You might need supports on the back of the head of the zombie. You might not. And you'd need supports on the back on the right arm. But it shouldn't be too bad about that. Okay, well, let's go ahead. Let's frame all the way out. And now we're going to do the final steps. We're going to merge down everything into a single bit of geometry for now. And then we are going to control drag, and it all dynameshes into a single mesh, a single watertight mesh. Now, it's currently at 2.5 million polygons, and there's no daggone way that's going to go in most slicers, especially not this small. So, we go to Z plugin, and we go to Decimation Master. Now, real quick, let's pull it out to about there. That'll give us an idea on how it'll look when it's printed. Actually, we need to about there if you have resin. And then zooming out about there if you have FDM and it's well tuned. Okay, so we're going to decimate to 100,000 triangles. Or 100,000 points, 200,000 triangles. And reordering the vertexes and bang, 200,076 triangles. Same amount of detail. Even down to the little seams in the headdress, which might not print. And the fang shapes on the bracer. Okay, so now we export Necromancer Lord. Okay. And that was that. That is our Necromancer. Now, what I need you to do is I need you to send me your email through DM on Discord, and I will email that to you. I'll give you both the OBJ and STL formats of that. For the next week, only you and I will have that figure. And then, yeah, of course, the second I lean back, I have a visitor. Now, next Sunday, it will go in the Patreon file vault, so that other members of my Patreon will have access to it. Excuse me. Are you doing that? Are you making me yawn? I think he's sleepy too. I mean, look at him. He's not being very rambunctious. Anyway, she's asleep. Are you gonna go sleep? Yeah. Anyway, that was today's first show. Tonight at 8. Ahem. Do you mind? Yeah, he's going to sleep on my hands. How am I supposed to shut down the show with you like this, furball? Gotta put you down. I'll see you in a few minutes, Fuzzbutt. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna do my usual. I'm gonna hold up my hand right here. Now, the reason I do this is because YouTube, good old YouTube, has a bit of a 10-second lag. And because of that, I can't always be certain that I'm not shutting it off in the middle of saying something. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to count from 5 to 1. When I get to 1, make a goofy statement, and then go, and then when I see on my screen that, I click on End Broadcast. So, that's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Proud Griffin dork.